They say a good marriage is like a fortress, built strong enough to weather any storm. I thought mine was unshakable. I'm 45, married to Angela, who's 41. We've been together for 22 years, with an incredible son, Tyler, who just turned 20 and is off in college now. Our life seemed perfect, or so I thought. Angela was my high school sweetheart. We grew up together, built our life together. I worked long hours running my small construction company while she stayed home to take care of Tyler and eventually pursued her dream of opening a boutique. I encouraged her, supported her. She was my world. When Tyler left for college last year, Angela seemed different. I chalked it up to empty nest syndrome. She was restless, wanted to try new things, meet new people. At first, I thought her joining a local art class was a great idea, a hobby to fill the quiet evenings. I was happy to see her passionate about something again. It was during this time that Tyler came home for spring break and introduced us to his best friend, Ryan. Ryan was polite, full of energy, and far too charming for his own good. He'd met Angela before through Tyler's FaceTime calls, and they seemed to hit it off right away. Looking back, I should have noticed how Angela's demeanor changed around Ryan. She laughed more, dressed up more. I didn't want to believe there was anything to it. I mean, this was our son's friend. He was barely out of his teens. A kid. The thought of anything inappropriate happening never crossed my mind. Until one night about 3 months ago. Angela had started spending more evenings out. Girls' nights, she said. I didn't question it, wanting to give her space to explore her independence. Then, on a random Tuesday, I was working late when a text popped up on my phone. It was from Tyler. Dad, is Mom okay? Ryan said she's been acting weird and told me not to tell you. But they've been meeting up. I thought you should know. My heart sank. What did he mean, meeting up? I didn't respond right away. Couldn't. The first domino had fallen, but I didn't know just how far everything was about to collapse. After Tyler's text, I couldn't focus on anything else. My gut twisted with suspicion, but my mind fought to stay rational. This was Angela, my wife of over 2 decades. Could she really be sneaking around with Ryan, our son's friend? I decided to play it cool, at least for the moment. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I started paying closer attention. Her phone, once left lying around carelessly, was now always in her hand or locked away in her purse. She had new clothes, nothing extravagant, but more youthful, vibrant. And then there were her outings. The next Thursday, she mentioned another girls' night. Something in her tone felt rehearsed, and I could feel my blood pressure rise as she casually kissed me goodbye. After she left, I sat in the quiet of our house, staring at my phone. Should I text Tyler? Call Ryan? No, I needed proof. I made the impulsive decision to follow her. Grabbing my keys, I drove toward the area where her art class was supposed to meet. But instead of heading downtown, Angela's car veered toward a quiet side street. I parked a distance away and watched as she pulled into the lot of a small cafe. And there he was, Ryan. He got out of his car. A grin spread across his face. Angela practically floated out of hers. They didn't hesitate, didn't look around. She hugged him, and it wasn't the kind of hug you'd give a family friend. It was intimate, too intimate. My fists clenched on the steering wheel, but I forced myself to stay calm. For an hour, I watched them through the cafe window, laughing, leaning close, and eventually leaving together. I trailed them to a nearby hotel. My world was crumbling with every step they took. I sat in the car, shaking with a mix of rage and heartbreak. Part of me wanted to barge in, to demand an explanation. But I didn't. Instead, I waited. When they finally emerged hours later, their disheveled appearances told me everything I needed to know. I drove home in silence, my thoughts racing. The betrayal wasn't just Angela's. Ryan was like a second son. And Tyler, what would this do to him? That night, I couldn't sleep. Angela returned late, claiming she'd lost track of time with her friends. I nodded, playing along, my heart pounding as I pretended not to know. But I was already planning my next move. The next morning, while Angela was out, I accessed her laptop. She'd grown complacent with her passwords after years of trust. My heart sank as I found a hidden folder labeled Special. Inside were pictures, messages, and even videos, proof of her months-long affair with Ryan. I sat there, staring at the screen, my hands trembling. Every image, every word was another knife to the heart. When she came home that evening, I was waiting for her, laptop open on the kitchen table. "Angela," I said, my voice cold and unfamiliar even to me. "We need to talk." The look on her face when she saw the screen told me everything. Angela froze in the doorway, her hand clutching her purse as her eyes locked on the laptop screen. The color drained from her face as she realized what I'd found. She stammered, What is this, Eric?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even move. "Sit down," I said, pointing to the chair across from me. She hesitated, her face a mixture of guilt and fear. When she didn't move, I leaned forward. "Sit down." Slowly, she lowered herself into the chair. "Who is he?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Finally, she whispered, "Eric, please let me explain." "Explain what?" I snapped, my voice trembling. "That you've been sneaking around with our son's best friend? That you've destroyed everything we've built for what? A thrill? A fling?" Tears welled up in her eyes, but they did nothing to soften my fury. "It wasn't supposed to happen," she began, her voice cracking. "I felt lonely. After Tyler left, I didn't know who I was anymore. And then Ryan. He made me feel alive again." "Alive?" I barked. "You felt alive by betraying your husband? By betraying your son?" Her tears started falling freely now, and she buried her face in her hands. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she sobbed. "It was a mistake." I slammed my fist on the table, making her jump. "A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. What you did is a choice. Over and over again, you chose to betray me, betray Tyler, betray this family." She looked up at me, desperation in her eyes. "I love you, Eric. I never stopped loving you. Please, let's fix this. We can get through this." But her words fell on deaf ears. I stood, towering over her, and pointed to the stairs. "Go pack a bag. You're leaving tonight." Her eyes widened in shock. "What? No, Eric, please. This is my home, too. Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not my problem," I said coldly. "You made your choices. Now you'll live with the consequences." For a moment, I thought she was going to argue, but then she broke down completely. Sobbing, she stood and slowly made her way upstairs. As I sat there, the reality of it all began to sink in. My marriage was over. The woman I had loved for 22 years was a stranger to me now. When Angela came back downstairs with a small suitcase, I didn't even look at her. "Don't come back," I said flatly. "I'll have a lawyer contact you about the divorce." "Eric, please," she begged one last time. "Think about Tyler. He needs his mother." "Tyler deserves a mother who respects herself and her family," I replied. "And thanks to you, he's lost that." I watched her walk out the door, her sobs echoing in the night. When it closed behind her, I finally allowed myself to collapse into a chair, head in my hands. But this wasn't the end. Not yet. The fallout was only beginning, and the hardest conversation was still ahead with Tyler. The next day, I called Tyler. My hands shook as I held the phone, but I couldn't put it off any longer. He deserved to know the truth. "Hey, Dad," he answered cheerfully, oblivious to the storm that was about to hit. "Tyler," I began, trying to steady my voice. "We need to talk. It's about your mom." There was silence on the other end. "What about her?" he asked cautiously. I took a deep breath. "She's been seeing someone she shouldn't have. It's Ryan." The line went quiet for so long that I thought the call had dropped. Then I heard him exhale sharply. "You're joking, right?" he said, his voice tinged with disbelief. "I wish I was, son," I replied. "But it's true. I saw them together." She admitted everything. There was a rustling sound, like he'd stood up suddenly. "Ryan?" he spat. "My best friend? Are you serious?"
I'm sorry, Tyler.
I wish I could tell you it was a mistake, but it's been going on for months. The anger in his voice was palpable. That bastard. And Mom? How could she do this to us? To you? To me? I don't have an answer for you, I said, my voice breaking. All I know is she's gone now. I told her to leave. Tyler let out a bitter laugh. Good. She deserves it. And Ryan, if I ever see him again. Don't, I interrupted. He's not worth it. None of this is worth ruining your future over. We spoke for a while longer, both of us grappling with the betrayal. Tyler was devastated, not just by his mother's actions, but by the loss of trust in someone he considered a brother. Over the next few weeks, Angela tried to reach out, sending tearful messages and begging for forgiveness. Tyler ignored her completely, while I responded only to discuss divorce proceedings. The once vibrant woman I'd loved had become a shadow of herself, consumed by regret and isolation. Ryan's betrayal didn't go unnoticed either. Tyler cut him out of his life, and word of the affair spread quickly through their circle of friends. Ryan, once the charismatic golden boy, found himself ostracized. Meanwhile, I began the slow, painful process of rebuilding my life. I threw myself into work, spent more time with friends, and started therapy to work through the anger and heartbreak. Months turned into a year, and one day, at a friend's dinner party, I met someone new. Her name was Lauren, a warm, genuine woman who had also endured her share of heartbreak. We bonded over our shared scars, and slowly, a new chapter began to unfold. Angela, on the other hand, spiraled. She struggled to find stability, moving from job to job and relationship to relationship. The affair had cost her everything: her family, her home, and her sense of self. The last time I saw her was at Tyler's college graduation. She sat alone in the back, her once confident demeanor replaced by a quiet sadness. When our eyes met, there was no anger, only pity. As I stood beside Lauren, watching our son accept his diploma, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The betrayal had broken me, but it hadn't defined me. Life had moved on, and so had I. Angela's story was a cautionary tale, a reminder that choices have consequences and that betrayal leaves scars far deeper than anyone can imagine. For me, it was the beginning of something new.